Welcome to the Ohio County Public Library Storytime Online. My name is Miss Jennifer.
I'm Miss Ellie.
And we're so glad that you're here today. You know, today is the last in our series of story times based on feelings. You know, we've talked a lot about all the neat feelings that you might have during the fall. Sometimes you might be happy because the weather is so nice and the fall leaves are falling. And sometimes you might feel, do you remember this? Silly, because you get to have costumes and maybe go do some fun things outside and it kind of makes you feel silly. Last week we talked about stories about when you feel grumpy. Do you remember the sign for grumpy? You kind of put your hand on your in front of your face and kind of scrunch your eyes like a grumpy face. Grumpy. Sometimes you might get grumpy because it rains whenever you're going to do something or something comes up, and sometimes we can feel grumpy. But today, you know, it's almost Halloween, and sometimes things at Halloween can make us scared. And so let's take a look at the sign for scared. When you're going to do the sign for scared, you're going to make fists on the side, and then you're going to go scared. And make scared eyes. Can you do that again? Scared. Sometimes you might be scared of things that you see at Halloween. But I want you to know there's nothing to be scared of. And so we're going to kind of have some stories, maybe some fun stories that show us that some of the things that we get scared of really aren't so scary after all. But let's get ready by getting our alligators out. A is for alligator, chomp, chomp, chomp. B is for bouncing, so we'll hop, hop, hop. C is for circle, so let's turn around. And D is for we all sit down. We crisscross. Applesauce, ready to be a listener. This is a story that we got not too long ago. And the title of this book is Monster Trouble. And the author of this book is Lane Fredrickson. Now, sometimes you might get scared at nighttime when you get ready to go to bed. Do you ever get scared or worried that there might be monsters in your closet or under your bed? Did you know that monsters aren't really real? But there are things that imaginary monsters are a little afraid of too, that this little girl finds out. So let's find out what scares away a monster. Winifred Schnitzel was never afraid, not of monsters or ghouls or the noises they made. She loved scary movies and werewolves and thunder and peg-legged pirates who bury their plunder. Still, Winifred's bedtime was hardly spook-free. The neighborhood monsters would not let her be. Each night they'd show up and attempt to be scary. Some would growl, some would belch, some were slimy, and some were hairy. Silly monsters. But all of their monsterly mayhem was moot because Winifred Schnitzel thought monsters were cute. Still, night after night, all those monsters kept creeping into Winifred's room, interrupting her sleeping. Too tired for math, too exhausted for fun, she finally decided those monsters are done. She ordered a book titled Monsters Beware and constructed the sticky string small monster snare. She's put sticky string all over her room to try to catch them. A snare is like a trap. Okay? But that night, the big monsters all showed up first, and the sticky string snare got so stretched that it burst. There were monsters on bedposts and stuck to the wall. They made slingshots from string. They were having a ball. Winifred sighed. They were louder than ever. She knew that she needed to try something clever. So she brought in some stinky old Limburger cheese. The label said, "Caution, makes big monsters sneeze." The monsters just called up the Goblin Street Deli They ordered in bagels and fish eyeball jelly. Winifred barely got through the next day. She dozed off in art class and snoozed through ballet. She decided, that's it. I've got to get tough. She was tired of monsters. Enough was enough. So she built every spook trap in Monsters Beware and one of her own called the Prickly Bone Chair. Poor Winifred yawned. She was so very sleepy. She was starting to look a bit spookishly creepy. When the monsters showed up with their howling and roaring, Winifred Schnitzel was already snoring. She was dreaming of puppies when a monster went hiss. She reached out and gave it a big sleepy kiss. The monster yelled, yuck! And all the others were heaving. One gagged and a big monster shouted, I'm leaving. Winifred knew that despite their uniqueness, she discovered that monsters have one silly weakness. So she puckered and pouted and kissed them all good. Those monsters screamed, running as fast as they could. Now Winifred sleeps very soundly at night. In the daytime, she's happy and perky and bright. But sometimes she finds that a monster's crept in right around bedtime with a monsterly grin. She ignores all the growling and roaring and hissing, since the one thing that all monsters hate most is kissing. The end. So if you have a problem with monsters, maybe you might try coming up with something like kissing them, see if that makes them go away. Speaking of monsters, sometimes when we get ready for bed, that might be a time, especially if you're someone who maybe is afraid of the dark. Sometimes we can be afraid at bedtime. Maybe we might think that there are monsters that are real, that live under our bed or in our closets. So let's do kind of a fun little song. Would you do this with me? This is kind of based on 5 little monkeys jumping on the bed, but instead we have 5 little monsters. Can you count them with me? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the monsters are, notice they are under the bed. But they don't stay under the bed. Let's put them way up here. They are going to be jumping on the bed. So there were 5 silly monsters jumping on the bed. One fell off and bumped his head. His mommy called the doctor and the doctor said, no more monsters jumping on the bed. Now how many do we have? 5. Takeaway 1 is 4. 4 silly monsters jumping on the bed. One fell off and bumped his head. His mommy called the doctor and the doctor said, no more monsters jumping on the bed. Now we have 4. Takeaway 1 is 3. 3 silly monsters jumping on the bed. One fell off and bumped his head. His mommy called the doctor and the doctor said, no more monsters jumping on the bed. How many do we have? We have 3. We're taking one more away, so we have 2. 2 silly monsters jumping on the bed. One fell off and bumped his head. His mommy called the doctor and the doctor said, no more monsters jumping on the bed. Now how many do we have? We have 2. Takeaway 1 is 1. 1 silly monster jumping on the bed. He fell off and bumped his head. His mommy called the doctor and the doctor said, no more monsters jumping on the bed. The end. Good job. Thank you for counting with me. And we are definitely going to put those silly monsters to bed. We're going to get rid of those silly monsters. There are a lot of things that are going on in fall that might give you cause that you might get a little bit scared. You know, Mouse sometimes might get scared whenever he's going about in fall as well. But he finds out that there's nothing to be afraid of. Miss Ellie's got a fun story about Mouse.
This book is called Mouse's First Halloween by Lauren Thompson. One spooky night when the moon crept around, and this is what he found. High in the sky, Mouse saw something flying. Flip, flip, flip. Eek! Mouse squeaked. What could it be? Swooping bats. That's all. Not so scary after all. Down on the ground, Mouse heard something moving. Rustle, rustle. Eek! Mouse squeaked. What could it be? Tumbling leaves after all. That's not scary after all. Up on the pole, Mouse saw something flapping. Flip, flip, flip. Eek! Mouse squeaked. What could it be? A waving scarecrow. That's all. Not so scary after all. Under a branch, Mouse heard something dropping. Plop, plop, plop. Eek! Mouse squeaked. What could it be? Falling apples. That's all. Not so scary after all. Over near the wall, Mouse saw something sneaking. Creep, creep, creep. Eek! Mouse squeaked. What could it be? Scampering kittens, that is all. So scary after all. Deep in the shadows, Mouse saw something flicker. Grim, grim, grim. Eek! Mouse squeaked. What could it be? A glowing jack-o'-lantern, that's all. So scary after all. Then on the step, Mouse heard something knocking. Thump, thump, thump. Eek! Mouse squeaked. Thump, thump, thump. Oh, what could it be? Trick-or-treaters, hooray! And they sang, trick or treat, giggle and fright. It's fun to be scared. On Halloween night, the end.
Well, one of my favorite stories is about a little old lady who wasn't afraid of anything. Now, I'm going to need your help to tell this story, so you're going to need to stand up because we're going to shake, shake, and wiggle, wiggle. You see, once upon a time, there was a little old lady who wasn't afraid of anything. She took up her basket and went walking through the woods one crisp, bright fall afternoon, picking berries to save for winter. But she had walked a very long way, and it started to get dark in the woods. And so she thought, I need to hustle on home before it gets too dark. And so the little old lady started walking down the path on her way home, when all of a sudden, what should she see but a pair of boots? And the pair of boots went stomp, stomp. Can you do that where you are? Stomp, stomp. Get away from me, you old silly pair of boots. I am not afraid of you, said the little old lady. And she kept walking down the pathway, but behind her she could hear the pair of boots going stomp, stomp. Well, the little old lady walked a little bit farther into the woods when all of a sudden she saw a pair of pants. And the little old lady said, oh, look at that. There's a silly old pair of pants in front of me. And the pair of pants went wiggle, wiggle. Can you wiggle your legs? Wiggle, wiggle. Oh, get away from me, you silly old pair of pants. I am not afraid of you. And she kept walking down the pathway on her way home, but behind her she could hear the boots going stomp, stomp, the pair of pants going wiggle, wiggle. Well, she walked a little bit farther when she saw a shirt. And the shirt went shake, shake. Can you shake your arms? Shake, shake. And the little old lady said, huh, get away from me, you crazy big waving scary shirt. I'm not afraid of you. And she went walking down the pathway, but behind her she could hear the boots going stomp, stomp, the pair of pants going wiggle, wiggle, the shirt going shake, shake. Well, she walked a little bit farther when all of a sudden she saw a pair of gloves going clap, clap, and a hat, a tall black hat going nod, nod. Can you do that? The gloves went clap, clap, and the hat went nod, nod. And the little old lady said, "What? Get away, get out of my way, you old pair of gloves and old silly hat. I'm not afraid of you." And she kept walking down the pathway, but now she could hear the boots going stomp, stomp, the pair of pants going wiggle, wiggle, the shirt going shake, shake, the gloves going clap, clap, and the hat going nod, nod. Oh my goodness, well, she was almost home. I mean, she could just about see it when all of a sudden, what should she see right in the middle of the pathway but a big, orange, scary pumpkin head. And the pumpkin head went boo, boo. Can you do that? Boo, boo. And the little old lady said, "Oh, get away from me, you old scary pumpkin head. I'm not afraid of you." And she started running home as fast as she could. But behind her she could hear the boots going stomp, stomp, the pair of pants going wiggle, wiggle, the shirt going shake, shake, the gloves going clap, clap, the hat going nod, nod, and the scary pumpkin head going boo, boo. Oh, the little old lady ran as fast as she could, ran into her house and slammed the door. Whew, she was safe. But then, all of a sudden, she heard a knock at her door. Well, should she go and answer it? Well, after all, she's not afraid of anything. So the little old lady went and opened the door. And do you know what she saw? She saw the boots going stomp, stomp, the pair of pants going wiggle, wiggle, the shirt going shake, shake, the gloves going clap, clap, the hat going nod, nod, and the scary pumpkin head going boo, boo. "What are you doing?" said the little old lady. "I'm not afraid of anything." The scary pumpkin head said, Well, if we can't scare you, what's to become of us? What are we supposed to do?" And the little old lady thought for a minute, and then she whispered something into the pumpkin head's ear, and she closed the door, and she went to bed. Well, the next morning, when the little old lady got up, she looked out her window. And do you know what she saw? She saw the boots going stomp, stomp, the pair of pants going wiggle, wiggle, the shirt going shake, shake, the gloves going clap, clap, the hat going nod, nod, and the scary pumpkin head going boo, boo. And it was scaring all the crows in her garden. The end. Well, speaking of being scared, sometimes at Halloween, we can get scared of things that we might see around as decorations like skeletons. Skeletons can be kind of scary. But you know what? You have a skeleton inside of you. It's the bones in your body. So we're going to sing a skeleton dance song where we're going to be pointing to the bones in our body. And we're going to be doing some wiggling, okay? Going to be doing some dancing. This is a song called The Skeleton Dance. It's by the Learning Company. So let's get ready to do some dancing, okay? So,
By the learning station.
it's okay. Ready?
There you go.
So we're going to kind of wiggle our arms.
Them bones, them hop.
Can you hop?
Them bones, them hop and bones, them bones, them hop and bones. Now shake
Shake your
them
bones.
skeleton bones. The toe bones
Can you
connected
point to
to
your toes?
foot bone.
Your foot
Foot bones
connected to your ankle bone. Your ankle bone's connected to your leg bone.
Now shake them skeleton bones. Them bones, them stomp
Can you
bones,
stomp?
them bones, them
Stomping bones.
them bones,
Them, stomping bones.
Now
Shake them skeleton bones.
The leg bone's connected to
To
your
your knee bone. Your knee bone's connected to your thigh bone. Your thigh bone's connected to your hip bone.
Now shake them skeleton
Can you
bones.
shake?
Them bones, them
Stretch your bones. Can you stretch?
Them bones, them.
Stretch.
Bones, them bones, them bones, them. Stretching bones now, shake them skeleton bones. The hip bones connected to your
backbone. Can you hold your back?
backbone's connected to the
Neck bone.
the neck bone's connected to the
Head bone.
Now shake them skeleton bones. Them bones, them bones, them. Jumping bones, them bones, them bones, them.
Can you jump?
Jumping bones, them bones, them bones, them. Jumping bones, now shake them skeleton bones.
Good job! All right, excellent job. We're so glad that you did some moving and grooving with us today. Let's get ready to have some more fun. This story time has been all about being scared. And did you know there are other words that mean when you're scared? You could use the word, or sometimes you might hear the word, afraid, or terrified, or even frightened. Those are all words that mean the same as being scared. Some people are scared of the dark. One of our favorite things to do here at the library is to do some shadow play. So we make the room kind of dark, and we're going to use a screen and a light to share a story. This is the story called In the Dark, Dark Woods. I'm going to need your help. Maybe you can say the story with us where you are. And there's a surprise at the end. Let's see if you can guess what it is. In the dark, dark woods, there was a dark, dark house. And in the dark, dark house, there was a dark, dark room. In the dark, dark room, there was a dark, dark closet. And in the dark, dark closet, there was a dark, dark box. And in the dark, dark box, there was a jack-o'-lantern! Eek! Well, let's get ready to do that story again. Do you remember the different parts of the story? Let's tell that story. I want to hear you telling that story back to me again, okay? Do you remember how it goes? Here's how it begins. Let Miss Ellie get her things back together. All right, help me out. In the dark, dark woods, there was a dark, dark house. And in the dark, dark house, there was a dark, dark, do you remember? Room. That's right. In the dark, dark room, there was a dark, dark closet. And in the dark, dark closet, there was a dark, dark box. And in the dark, dark box, there was a spider this time. Oh, goodness gracious, a scary, scary spider. Today we're in our cozy corner for one last week to talk about being scared. Did you know that almost everyone is scared of something? Probably the most common things that people are scared of are things like the dark, or dogs, storms, or sometimes even monsters. You might even be able to talk to an adult. Remember, we've talked about how with almost anything that you're feeling, it's always good to talk to a grown-up or an adult that you trust. If you talk to an adult like one of your parents or grandparents, you might find that when they were small, they were afraid of something, maybe even the same thing that frightens you. It'd be interesting to find out. Maybe ask them about that. So one of the things that you can do is if you do feel afraid of something, either a situation or an activity, is to talk to an adult. Now, one of the things that you might want to do is to talk with them about what makes you afraid of that thing or that activity. And it could be something that you could, with their help, go online, get on the internet, and do some research and find out why some people are afraid of that. Another great activity to do, though, is to make a chart that kind of helps you to take steps towards doing something that frightens you. Maybe you're afraid of dogs. Maybe you've had a bad experience with a dog. So how do you go about getting over that fear that you might have? So you could kind of start by taking small steps. I've kind of created a chart here that you could do. Maybe work at breaking down that activity. So the first thing you might do is try being in the room with a dog. And then put a star when you've been successful at that, at just being in a room where there's a dog. Then maybe going and standing beside a dog, not touching the dog in any way, just standing beside the dog. And then putting some stars when you've been successful with that. Then maybe touching a dog. And then lastly, petting a dog. And so by taking small steps, you could maybe cope with or overcome a fear that you have about something like maybe swimming or being with a dog, if that's something that frightens you. And whenever you are in those situations, make sure you take a deep breath and give yourself the confidence that you need. Say to yourself, I can do this and I'm gonna be okay. All right? Another thing, for some people, like I said, they might have some fears of things like monsters. We shared a story about a little girl who had monsters that she was kind of a little bit afraid of. She thought they were cute, but they were monsters nonetheless, and they were keeping her up at night. Maybe if monsters are keeping you up at night, maybe like in our story, make them cute or make them funny. Draw a picture of them being funny or being silly. And know that you are not alone. Almost everyone gets scared or is afraid of something. Fear is normal. It's designed to protect us. It's designed to help us know when there is something that might not be safe. So it's important to know when to be apprehensive. And it's always important to know that if you're ever afraid of a person or a place or a situation, if there is a person that you are afraid of, make sure that you always tell a grown-up. Well, we're so glad you joined us today. It's time for our hands to give thanks. Our hands give thanks with a clap, clap, clap. Our feet give thanks with a tap, tap, tap. Clap, 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 tap, tap, tap. We roll them together and we wave goodbye. See you next week.